Once upon a time, there lived a young boy who lived with his evil stepmother. He wore ragged clothes, and each night was locked up in an old annex room. However, he soon grew accustomed to this, and hid away treasures there that he could unearth as soon as the door was locked. Here he was the prince of his own world, wielding a sword and commanding a fleet of horses. On his head he would wear a dazzling crown, and around his neck a flowing cape. As the nights wore on, he would sit back on his throne and read about the magical folk and daring quests from his kingdom. He sometimes wished he too could join them. One night, as he settled down to sleep, something odd happened. Rising, the prince knew that there was a magical force afoot. Grasping for his sword, the prince bravely advanced towards its source. Pausing, the prince listened closer. The magical hum was coming from behind the cabinet. Behind it sat a secret doorway, just big enough for him to fit through. The magical lights illuminated this passageway too, and the prince had no choice but to proceed. Turning a corner, the prince found another doorway and pushed his way through. A mirror swung open, granting passage into a new room. The prince looked down at his regal garments, admiring his sword and crown. The mirror swung shut behind him. The prince shrunk in the scene. It was the royal game room, stacked high with books and toys. However, the room had been disturbed. The other wall, once covered in pictures of the legends of his realm, had been defaced. Moving closer, the prince looked at a giant hourglass in the center. A voice sounded.
Nex adu immortalis. Libri spondeo nex. Adve hoc mort animadverto. Opero non timio.
He ran to the door, but it was locked. The Grimm began to advance. The prince knew what to do now. There must be a hidden door, obscured by the Grimm's banners. And the prince banged on the last wall. Yes. Ripping away the strap, a door was revealed. But it was shut tight. The prince reached for the opening, but he was too small. prince was immediately met with another door.
Nex adu immortal. Advei hoc mort animadverto. Operor non tibium. Adu immortal.
Splendors from all over the kingdom were stored here. Vials of potions, tomes of magical secrets, enchanted music boxes, chests of gold, and a whole manner of other objects, but which could be his people's weapon? The prince began to search the room. A potion of immortality? A scroll of the arcane? Moving further into the room, a feeling of magic grew inside the prince.
12.
There, guarded by one of the Grimm's villainous treasures, was a box more plain than anything else in the room. The Grimm spoke once more.
Nex.
The prince left through the door, but instead of the previous room he stepped into another chamber, this one much darker than the last.
Libri spondeo nex. Animadverto. Salus est proculamus immortalis. Libri spondeo nex. Animadverto.
The prince realized he had little chance. The Grimm already had destroyed all of his pieces. All was surely lost, when the prince remembered the silver scroll. Out fell a final piece. The Grimm cursed the prince, but surrendered the kingdom once more. At least, for now, all was well.